News, and I'm Michael Miller. Our special guest for today is Leanne Tellam, who's the Vice Mayor of the Village of Palmetto Bay. Thank you so much for being here.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, number one, why did you decide to run for public office? Was that 4 years ago or 5 years ago you decided to run?
So I was actually approached probably a decade ago and asked to run. And I'm like, I've got small children. It's not exactly what I want to do. So I turned around and I trained women to run for office because I had trained them for PTA and Junior League. And then I pulled up to a campaign event for Karen Cunningham. And the friends that I had gathered looked at me and started calling me VM. And I'm like, why are you calling me VM? And they said, because we think you should run. And at that point, I decided to run because I realized I had developed some skills that we needed on the dais in Palmetto Bay.
VM as the Vice Mayor.
Yeah.
So you came to the table with a degree in law. You became a lawyer, right? And so there's certain skills that you get when you practice law. I guess you practice it, but practice doing those good things in communication. So if people were saying you'd make a good VM, did you run then?
Yes.
Right.
Well, when your own circles, when your pillars tell you it might be time for something, then you look at it. And if you're smart, you listen to the people that probably know you better sometimes than yourself.
So what did you do? Did you win that time?
Yeah. But it was the only runoff in the state of Florida that was supported by some of the organizations that I've helped. And so the runoff was particularly challenging. So I didn't win it right out because there was a third-party candidate. So I had a really interesting trial with the first type of campaign.
So, yeah, and you're a great campaigner because you've been in office how many years now?
4.
4 years. And there's term limits now in Palmetto Bay. Tell us about that.
So you're allowed to run for 12 years in a row. So you can do 3 successive terms, and then you have to take a break if you wanted to come back after that. So we're looking in 2026 for 3 more people that are willing to serve in the Village of Palmetto Bay. Karen's going to term out, Patrick's going to term out, and Marsha's going to term out. So we need to make sure that it's approachable so that we can find community members who want to come in with like minds.
So we know that the Palmetto Bay is known for a lot of things, but why don't you tell us the good things that Palmetto Bay is known for?
I honestly can say that we're a little slice of paradise. One of my favorite ways to find my smile is I take my paddleboard off of Deering Point, which is right on that C100 canal, and I go paddleboarding up and down the coast because I've been raised going out on the bay. And so we have wild, crazy nature out there, out on Biscayne Bay. And then we've got tons of parks. We're the Village of Parks. But more than that, we've got schools that are the envy of the Dade County public school system. People move to Palmetto Bay in order to get into our public schools. So we've got parks, we've got schools, and that builds amazing community so that you're connected with the people around you and you can raise a family or you can age in place. And that's what's so special about Palmetto Bay.
Last season, I went to the farmer's market. I was there, and in the meanwhile, connected to it is a baseball field, right?
Go Panthers.
Yes. And I'm going, look at all these people that are there. And you're just walking around. It was the camaraderie, the community that's there. Mm-hmm. You're right. And a lot of happy people. And you have people on both sides. Okay, you can walk through the stuff and buy whatever you want, or you can go watch the kids play baseball. And so we know right down the street from you at Coral Reef High School, which is on the west side of US 1, one of the top-rated schools.
Mm-hmm. Top magnet in Miami-Dade.
It's amazing. Tell us about healthcare that's available.
Healthcare available
in Palmetto Bay.
For individuals?
No, like Baptist has facilities.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a great partnership with Baptist that we've been negotiating actually over the last 6 months, even more so, because they're former medical arts building, which then became an urgent care center. The urgent care center moved over to 152nd Street and is providing amazing service there. And then they're building what's called a freestanding ER at the corner of 87th and 144th. So we're going to have an urgent care, we're going to have medical arts for high-level professionals like we know Baptist provides. And then we're going to have the freestanding ER, and we'll see how that comes along.
Let's talk about police protection. Tell us about how happy citizens are with the police.
So one of the things I say to my students over at Coral Reef Senior is...
Because you're teaching now.
I am. I went there 3 years ago, and I'm now the lead teacher for the Law and Public Affairs Academy. And I teach government, and I teach what's called a Certified Legal Professional course to our legal seniors. I look at them when we're talking about legal issues, and in jest, I say, if you're going to get in trouble, don't ever get in trouble in Palmetto Bay, because when the call goes out to our officers, would any available unit respond? We have 4 to 6 cars within 3 to 6 minutes. We are so safe and so well cared for by our police that it is enviable, I think. We've made the right choice as far as where we're going to invest in our safety.
And then we have the educational system and schools. Tell us about some of the schools that are there.
So I was lucky enough to raise my 3 children, who are now 24, 22, and 19, at Coral Reef Elementary School, where I spent about a dozen years on the PTA, and I was the president probably about 14 years ago. And so at that point in time, I knew every teacher on the school campus. We raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in support of the school. We've also got 2 other elementary schools that our Educational Advisory Board in Palmetto Bay love to collaborate with. That's Howard Drive Elementary School and Henry Perrine School of the Arts, which is another elementary school that's got a fancy name now. And then you've got Southwood Middle School, which 2 of my 3 went to and went through the drama magnet.
So you used to be a practicing attorney.
Yes.
So you're no longer practicing. You're still a lawyer attorney.
It never gets out of your head.
But it's still there.
I see liability everywhere.
Sorry.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad because I can see it, and then I can work to make sure that we're set up to prevent things from going wrong. And when things do go wrong, I've got the decades of skill that I've built to be able to figure out how on the dais we're going to react. So that's one thing that keeps me there, is that I can use my litigation and my mediation experience for the better of Palmetto Bay.
And why did you stop practicing?
I came to a point in life where I realized that I could afford to be a teacher. I got to the point where I wanted a little bit less stress. I wanted to be able to have more time to focus on my role as vice mayor. And I had gotten all 3 of my children off to college. And I looked around and I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm going to go and help with the teacher shortage.
And how long did it take you to get to that place? Was it like it was an instant thing, or did you think about it for a couple of years? And
I definitely toyed with it for a couple of years. I've got people from having worked with the PTA from Coral Reef Elementary School all the way through Palmetto Senior. I was on the PTA there for almost a dozen years, I think 10 or 12. People that I could reach out to and go, hey, if I was interested in this, what would I have to do? And so I made that call to a couple of the key players that I know. And then finally, when I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, I reached out and found out that they were interviewing for the lead teacher of the Law and Public Affairs Academy, and it just seemed like serendipity.
It's wonderful. We know that I think the mayor just was appointed to a new position with the Dade League of Cities. Tell us about that.
So Karen is now president of the Miami-Dade League of Cities. She has gone above and beyond as far as what she's willing to do for Palmetto Bay, and now she's doing it for the entire county. For me, in a kind of selfish way, what that's great about is that I then get to sit on the board of the Miami-Dade County League of Cities. We cannot just work with just Palmetto Bay, but every single municipality throughout Miami-Dade County, we gather once a month and we talk about how we can solve problems collaboratively.
It's important. Let's talk about the cities on both sides, Pinecrest and Cutler Bay. How's that relationship?
So it's funny because the majority of people that were on the dais, 2 of them just termed out, Anna Hokemer and Katie Abbott. But those 2 and Shannon Del Prado, we were all on the PTA board together at Palmetto Senior High School. So we've always had a great relationship because we were working for our kids and our family together. And then Tim Meerbot, Susie Lord, and all the rest of them down in Cutler Bay, well, I'm a Ridge rat. So I have to.
You heard it here first.
I went to Cutler Ridge Elementary School. I lived on 191st Terrace, and so my roots in Cutler Bay run deep to the point where I have to emphasize Bay instead of calling it Cutler Ridge. My dad took me out of Black Point my entire childhood on weekends.
Wow.
So the relationship with Pinecrest and Cutler Bay, honestly, we're a trifecta, we're a continuum. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't continue to work that way, especially with the big changes that are going to go down at Cutler Ridge Mall, or I'm sorry, what do we call it now? Southland Mall.
And it's going to be significant for people that don't know. It's going to be $1.5 billion or $2 billion by the time it gets done. Thousands of people are going to live there, and they're going to be able to work there. They're going to be able to be entertained, and it's really significant. And it will be a super beautiful town center.
I love talking to Tim Meerbot about this because he's got a vision, And what I've learned over the last 4 years especially is that when you're talking about community development and trying to get it done right, you really have to have the rules in place and the tenacity to stick to your guns about what it is you want to see. And then you have to find that unicorn developer that's willing to do it the way that you want to do it as well, and figure out how to do it in the middle. So that's a huge project that they're working on down there. I hope to be in place to help support what they need to do, because one thing is, it's a great hope that if that becomes a commerce center, that we will have less cut-through traffic in Palmetto Bay. If people have a destination to go to, like downtown Dadeland, like South Miami has become, then we won't have as many people thinking they have to travel from Homestead to Brickell to make a living.
And as we tell the county commission, jobs, jobs, jobs. And when they do more of that south up there, that certainly keeps some of the people off the street.
It is spectacular to me that I have a 10-minute commute right now. I used to have to do the Brickell thing for a long, long time. And then when I was with branches, I was up near Miami-Dade North, so my commute was like an hour and 15 minutes.
That's amazing.
I'm lucky that I get to make those choices.
So as you're out knocking on doors and talking to people, what is some of the residents tell you some of their issues are?
So one of them is they want to make sure, and this is where my legalese comes in a little bit. I always refer to it as the quiet enjoyment of your home. It encompasses a couple of things. It encompasses being able to find schools in your local municipality that you want your kids to go to, creating community with the parents and the families that are around you, but also being able to play safely in your front yard. And so traffic obviously is always one of them. We're constantly working on that. But also being able to build the amenities that we want to for our community. Palmetto Bay has developed to a point where our foundation can perhaps explode with opportunities. Our parks have events that we can come to together. We have Halloween and a movie night just this weekend. That type of thing is people want to have a community that they can live, work, play in, and feel like they can raise families and age in place.
And the people that haven't been to the Coral Reef Park, you have these wonderful little bridges over the canals where the ducks are, and it really is very calming when you walk along there. It's a good place to go and have a conversation with yourself, or maybe with somebody that's not with you anymore, and it's really a tremendous place. We know there's an issue a while back concerning some of the ducks. Let's talk a little bit about that. The ducks, which are considered invasive and
evasive sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you're chasing them. There was a vendor was paid to get rid of some of those ducks that were, depending on your position, a nuisance or too friendly. And so the city responded to that. So I understand there's a pet animal committee.
Well, there was.
Wildlife. There was.
There was.
Oops. All right. That's gone now.
So unfortunately, what happened was our Parks and Recreation, I think, quite frankly, very much overreacted to the fact that we had aggressive ducks going over to the elementary school. We go back to, my hope is that we can grow education to explain to people that if you feed ducks, it's actually bad for them. The white bread can kill them. And Muscovy ducks can repopulate themselves 2-3 times a year. We learned a lot about this in the aftermath of this duck situation. When I heard about it, I approached the manager and I said, why did you do this? And he said, we had to respond to this. And I said, but this is not the way that I would respond. Unfortunately, it was turned into a community opportunity of divisiveness, as opposed to coming together and talking about how we find solutions, like we did when we recently discovered we were going to have to take out a big oak if we put our community building in Coral Reef in the right place. Some people took it to their advantage, including my opponent, who sent out a flyer. And that's why I'm saying there's not a duck committee anymore, because after that flyer went out, where my opponent's like, you should never have to look at these pictures of this invoice picture of the ducks having been culled. It's disgusting, and yet I'm sending it to everybody in a flyer so that my cell phone number, my name, and call the vice mayor to tell her not to kill animals was done. We heard from the duck committee after that. There's about 7 women who said, I want you to know, the entire council, they wrote to us and said, I want you to know that we are disassociated from this because our money and our name were used without our permission.
So what I'm sort of hearing about that is, if there was a public conversation ahead of time about what to do, the end result might have been a little different of the way it was handled. called that's a normal term. And when some people were calling me about the ducks, I said specifically, what is the problem? And it was that it was in the public. It was those ducks were terminated in the public, where people saw it, instead of like behind closed doors. And so I said to somebody, so what do you want to do with the iguanas that are eating your hibiscus? And what about the pythons? And what do you want to do with the alligators? And I said, by the way, are you a vegetarian? And so, and those are real, honest to God questions that we need to ask ourselves. And as uncomfortable as it is, people have to make decisions. And with peacocks, by the way, there was a wonderful solution to that, which is the peacocks, the males are getting vasectomies. Pretty nifty. Dr. Don Harris, hey Don, and is doing that. The city of the village of Pinecrest hired him to collect the birds and to sterilize them. And then there are about 2,000 peacocks that are running around. They're protected.
The program was actually brought to Pinecrest by my friend Shannon Del Prado, who had brought it to the dais, and we talked about the development of it all the way through. But I've also got some people, there's always going to be concerns, and that's why we have to walk through these things very delicately, because I've had some people come to me recently and say, but those birds are getting damaged or injured when they're being captured for the vasectomies. So I'm not so sure it's the solution. What I'd like to move forward with after I tried to do a wildlife management plan, right? And I said, let's bring in a lot of experts from as far to the left or as far to the right that you can in the animal world, and bring them together. We had this great Zoom, I remember the screen, where there were 8 representatives of different organizations. And what we came out with was that educational program should be able to make a difference. And that if you have people understanding you can't feed wildlife, or at least cut back on the feeding that you do, then you're going to reduce the problem, because there is a problem for some people, and yet it's a real problem for others if you want to do anything to the animals that are causing those problems. So navigating that, honestly, Michael, it's one of the reasons why I stay in the game, because as you can see, I'm not tenacious about any kind of controversial issue that we have to talk about. Once you've run the junior league, once you've run PTA, once you've been a mediator for a dozen years, then it's okay to get into the hard conversations and try and find what you can through experience and moderation and bring everybody forward.
So you've done a lot of mediation.
It was a while ago.
Well, so we were involved in the lawsuit with somebody, and so we brought in an expert, and he said, what do you want to get done? And I said, this is what we want to get done. I said, thank you. I called up the guy on the other side. I said, listen, the best settlement is one you're not happy with and one I'm not happy with. So let's take care of this today. So after we spent a year and a half, and I won't tell you how much money.
Oh, I can.
48 hours later, it was done. Okay. Because somebody was able to put the pause button on, reminding us, what do you want to get done? Okay, so let's stop all this stuff over here and let's work at that. So I know that you've been successful in doing that, and make people think about what we need to do. So yeah, a lot of experience in not-for-profits, in government, and in the commission. What would you like to see in your next 4 years?
Wow. So I'd like to see a continuation of the fiscal conservatism that we've had. We've been able to get a bond rating that is enviable from any other municipality in Miami-Dade County. Nick Morano, Desmond Chin, all of our people that are really good staff members have done a fantastic job of cutting things and trimming things where they can and operating on a really good, tight budget. That's one of the things I enjoy overseeing, to make sure that we have reestablished reserves and that we have set out a maintenance schedule. Some of government should be boring. And so if we can take care of that, if we can then reestablish, for example, the recreation building at Coral Reef Park that was torn down because it wasn't properly maintained. And that is huge. So we've got $5 million being put into that. Seeing that through to the point where it's finalized and it's open up to the public for families to be able to enjoy that. Veterans Park is going to be so amazingly exciting, and that's going to require regular attention as well to make sure that all 3 phases are funded and executed in a way that's smart for the neighborhood. What else? there's so much. I'm now chair of the foundation for Palmetto Bay. We've had a foundation since the original crew, but it lay dormant for a long time. And with my nonprofit background, and when my colleagues appointed me chair on the dais, I started getting excited about what we could do, but I understand we have to tread slowly because we don't want to leave anybody behind.
Okay, and before I forget, you are running for vice mayor again.
Yes.
There's early voting is taking place now. Final day to vote is November 5th. That's the final day.
Everybody needs to make a plan to vote.
Yes, because you never know, it might be pouring rain so get in, vote, all right? Vote before the final day. If you have absentee ballot, fill it out. You can take it to the post office. You can take it to a polling place and drop it off right in that basket.
And I would say also this, one of the things I say to my students, because I get to teach government, and some of them are going to be fresh voters. Take a look at the entire ballot before you go. Do your research, call the people that you trust. If you see that people have got endorsements, I'm very proud of the list of endorsements that I've got, because it reflects relationships and experience. That you want to go into that booth or with your vote by mail ballot, and you want to be able to get down ballot to be able to understand, because there's a lot there. We don't have a direct representative government because it's too complicated. So we elect the people that we can trust, that their skills are going to be able to help us. And you need to go into that booth having done that research.
So I know you probably had a lot of mentors along your way and people that have helped you. And this is the greatest time that we enjoy here. I'd like you to, if you would, to thank some of those people by name if you like.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And whether they're with us or not, all right? And if you look right into the blue camera right over here, Danny's going to get you on. There you are, right? Look right there. Go for it.
To start off with, my mom. My mom's still with us, but she's got some challenges right now. And she was a teacher at Cutler Ridge Elementary School, Palmetto Senior, and she never thought that I'd go into teaching, so I really enjoy honoring her. I also want to thank my mentors in the political world. One of them is Daniela Levine Cava. After having a friendship and a mentoring experience with her that's expanded over 20 plus years, she's endorsed me for my race, and she's been somebody I can call up and ask questions to, and I'm so super grateful because she's got a lot on her plate. Karen Cunningham as well. We've gone through several different campaign courses in the course of our friendship, and while we don't always agree on everything, the way that she leads Palmetto Bay with all of her heart and all of her time that she puts in, I've learned so much, and I'm very grateful for the mentoring that I've received from her. There's Eileen Higgins on the Dade County Commission, Sally Heyman, who I went to law school with, Katie Sorensen. To have Katie Sorensen's endorsement, for those who are new to Palmetto Bay or to Miami-Dade County, Katie ran the Center for Ethics at University of Miami, where she would teach people how to act in politics before that was taken over. I think it was by Miami-Dade College. So thank you, Katie. Thank you to David Greenwell and the Police Benevolent Association, and Mari Guerra, who's our commander in Palmetto Bay for our police, because I'm really proud to have established a relationship with them where I garnered their endorsement for this as well. So to have the Police Benevolent Association endorse you in a race for re-election is something that very much sits high on my gratitude list, I could say. Should I keep going? Because gratitude practice to me is something that keeps you lifted up, that keeps you keep moving forward, and then to be able to bring other young people from behind you and to help with those connections and mentoring from behind, that to me also fires me up. SAVE, the organization SAVE, came in during my 2020 election after some tragedy in my family and lifted me up over the line completely. We also have the Miami Realtors. I have so many girlfriends and guy friends in Miami-Dade County who are realtors, and for them to come forward and to say that they believe in my candidacy and my qualifications and that I should be back on the dais, thank you so much for that support. And the AFL-CIO, all of our hardworking people that get the job done every single day. Those community connections are something that I'm so very grateful for. So thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have you had many self-actualizing moments recently?
I'm 56. They come every moment. There's something about being in your 50s and being like, my kids are grown and flown, and having that opportunity to raise 3 beautiful children in Palmetto Bay and then come back and reflect and be able to give that wisdom back to the seniors. And I do 9th through 12th at Coral Reef Senior High School. And so, yes, every single class period, every single moment, I get that self-actualization that life is good.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
If people need to reach you, they can find you all over the internet. Just look it up. So put in her name, Leanne, Tellam.
Oh, well, I can give you my cell number too, because it's been on a flyer to everybody in Palmetto Bay before.
So go ahead and do that.
305-975-0287. Please call me, text me. I want to be the representative of our people, and meeting new ones is just one of the great pleasures.
Well, it's been my great pleasure, Leanne. Thank you so much for being, and a great handshake, folks.
Oh, well, thank you.
Red camera right over here. We're gonna look right over there, and folks, thank you for joining us. And